Throughout history, women have been underrepresented in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics field, otherwise known as the STEM fields, and oftentimes had not received credit for the work that they have done. Several decades ago, it wasn't uncommon for a female scientist to discover something groundbreaking in the field only for her superiors to receive credit, such as in 1943 when Jocelyn Bell Brenner discovered pulsars and her supervisor Anthony Hewish claimed the Nobel Prize and completely excluded Bell. Watson and Crick, the claimed discoverers of the structure of DNA, didn't really discover the structure of DNA. They somehow got a hold of a female scientist Rosalind Franklin's photographs of DNA and used them to determine the structure without her permission and took credit for discovering the structure of DNA itself. It wasn't until Madame Curie, with her discovery of two elements on the periodic table, became the first woman to win the Nobel Prize in 1903 and again in 1911. Fortunately, in the past few decades, stealing credit has become less of a problem. Sexism in the fields, however, has not diminished. So what exactly has led to this underrepresentation and sexism in the STEM fields? As a female neuroscience major, I've experienced and witnessed the sexism that occurs in the hard sciences myself. I remember being in my advanced science classes in high school and having to deal with jokes about how there were so few girls in the class because girls were not logical enough to solve the mathematics that accompany the laws of physics. It's this kind of casual joking that partially contributes to the discouragement that most women must face all throughout their lives while trying to pursue a career in science. Although these sexist jokes are often irritating and generally discouraging, female scientists in the past have had to face a lot worse than classroom bullying. Historically, women were imprisoned at home, resulting in a male-dominated world of science. After several years of persistence, women were finally formally accepted into the scientific community. As expected, this did not lead to the end of the discrimination that occurs in the workforce. In addition, biology textbooks already portrayed females to be the passive subject of all relationships. Emily Martin, an anthropologist and feminist, wrote extensively about how the female egg was often described as a sperm receptor, a term that has very passive connotations in her 1991 article, The Egg and Sperm: How Science Has Constructed a Romance Based on Stereotypical Male-Female Roles. Essentially, Martin argues that the female reproductive system is portrayed as a failure because the gamete is expelled once a month, whilst men produce millions of sperm each day. It's also worth noting that what women expel, we produce, and what men produce, they expel. She proposes that in order to alter this language, we must encourage more women into the biological sciences as well as to be aware of these gender stereotypical analogies. Several archaic biology textbooks also portray females to be in need of rescue and to be motherly, whilst excluding examples of species in which the female is the dominant partner in the relationship, such as the case with several species of birds and sea life. As a result of this majorly flawed science education, people from past generations have been taught that women are biologically not as aggressive as men and are incapable of being as successful. Today, major universities still have this mindset, unfortunately. Let's assume that a girl has already passed the barriers and now wants to continue to get her PhD and become a professional scientist. Studies have shown that only 1/5 of physics PhDs go out to women, which means that there must be some other sources of discouragement as well. And this could stem from the fact that female scientists will get paid less than male scientists. Recently, Yale produced a study that indicated that professional physicists, biologists, and chemists would much more prefer a male scientist than a female scientist with the same qualifications. Even worse, these fake applications had been sent out to 6 major research centers, only to find that women would be paid $4,000 less than her male counterpart if she were given the job. This is, however, not much of a surprise, and the discrepancy in salary between men and women is common in all fields of work. Some would question whether it really is a detriment to the scientific community if women are not partaking in the hard sciences. Does it really make a difference? Why is it important for women to pursue the sciences? Well, besides of the fact that science careers in general provide an incredible amount of intellectual stimulation and financial stability, it's important to realize how the absence of female scientists has impacted our world as a whole. Firstly, the prevalence of men and scientists directly affects the type of problems that are chosen to deal with. Typically, the solutions to these problems favor the male gender. For example, contraception in general has not been given the attention that it deserves within the health sciences. When it has been given the attention, it has been solely focused on what women can do to prevent pregnancy and the types of medications that women have to take. It won't be until 2017 that a reversible male contraceptive will be released, called Vagisil. This means that it has taken about 50 years for someone to realize that perhaps people shouldn't always be trying to alternate women's bodies to make life easier. There's even a bias in the actual design of scientific experiments themselves. Virtually all animal research has been performed on male rats, the assumption being that the male rat can be considered a representative of the entire species. As a result, there are a high number of scientific publications that yield results favoring the male gender or are only applicable to the male gender. Whilst we've managed to overcome some of the major issues, such as the misrepresentations of females in textbooks and the discrediting, there's still a long way to go. So what can both men and women do to fix the lack of female presence in the scientific community? It's simple, really. Encouragement from professors and parents alike. While some of us are not in a position to fix the discrepancy in salary, we cannot underestimate the power of emotional support for young girls who want to pursue a career in the sciences. This kind of support will result in young girls eventually realizing that the stereotypes that media portray of an unattractive, unfeminine female scientist and the notion that only boys are fit to be a scientist are not necessarily true, and that these stereotypes can be disbanded. Louis Pasteur, discoverer of the principles of vaccinations, once said, "Science knows no country because knowledge belongs to humanity and is the torch which illuminates the world." The humanity that he is referring to has been predominated by men, and although these men have made significant contributions to the world of science, it's also about time that women are more so included in the scientific community.